Hey guys, welcome back to my tutorials, and this is my first video for my new series, which is for CSS videos. I've just finished off making my one for basic HTML, and now we're going to move on to CSS, and then from here we're going to move on to JavaScript and PHP, which will allow us to make a full-on dynamic website. So for example, which can be used in e-commerce, which can be used for anything that we really want to put online. Now, what I've got here is simply a bunch of different paragraphs and headers, which you can see over here. So this is the biggest header, this is another header, this is the smallest header, this is a piece of text, this piece of text is bold and blue, this is another paragraph, this is my final paragraph. There's nothing exciting about it. Now, if you have seen my other videos, or any other videos in general, you know that typically no web page, or in general, any web page is just going to be plain HTML. Because plain HTML is just used to make the skeleton of the web page, not actually to do any form of designing for the front end of the web page, of the website that you're trying to make. Therefore, what we can do is we can start to style our tags. By styling our tags, as we know, it starts to beautify it up a little bit. It starts to make it a bit nicer. It starts to make it a little bit more presentable. So, as we've already seen, I have done in all my other videos something like p_style is equal to color blue and font weight being bold. Okay, and as we've seen here, if I were to refresh the page after saving it, suddenly this piece of text is bold and blue. We've seen that, we've done that. Similarly, I can apply the same styling attribute to all three of my paragraphs. Now, we can do this, and it's going to work because we've applied them to each individual paragraph tag. But now imagine having like 5,000–6,000 lines of code, or having a massive website which has got so many different things on it. You don't want to keep having to rewrite this each time, especially if you've got hundreds of styles or hundreds of different styling attributes that you want to place onto your text, onto your images, onto your navigation bars, onto, X, Y, and Z different things. There's a way around this. So the first one that we're going to use is something just called the style tag. And this is going to be placed between your header tags. And simply all I'm going to be putting in here is style. And then simply closing it because it has a closing tag. Now what I'm going to start to use is some CSS code. And in this tutorial I'm not really going to explain what it is. I'm just trying to show you how to link it together. And what I'm going to use is a paragraph selector, which is P, which relates to this paragraph selector, and then the attribute values that I want to put with it. So I'm going to say color blue, and notice that none of this is in speech marks, in quotation marks. And secondly, I'm going to say font weight, and I'm going to say bold. Okay. Now all I've done is replicate this, as you can see. However, it's going to be applied to all paragraphs. So not just this one, or this one. It's going to be applied to all three of them. So let me go ahead and remove all of this. And let's go ahead and review the page. So all I've got here is the exact same thing as I had before. There is no difference as to what I had before. Now, if that isn't as clear, well, what I can show you is, if you see here, the H1 tag is different obviously from the H2 tag, and which is different from the H6 tag. So within here, let's say I wanted to apply a slightly different styling. For example, I can now say H1, open squiggly brackets, and make sure they're closed at the end. And I can say color red. I'm going to put the font weight as bolder. Okay, now this implies that only the H1 tag will have this particular styling added to it. Okay, so if I were to now save this, go back to my page, and as you can see, this is the biggest header. Now, font weight, as you could see, won't really be applied to the header tag because it is already the boldest possible that it can be. Okay, so as you can see there. And as you can see here, it's not been applied to the other headers or to the other pieces of text in the script. If I would now want to add another H1 tag and saying this is the second header, suddenly it's also going to be applied to the next header. So this is going to be applying to every single h1 tag that exists on your page. Another thing I'm going to show you in future tutorials is how to prevent this from happening. So let's say I only wanted this particular one to be red and this one to be green. There is a way around that. Okay, and finally, let me just demonstrate to you quickly. H2, which will just go to the second header tag, and I'll say color green. Okay, and save this. And as you can see, the color has now been changed to green. So now, as you can see, I've started adding my stylings appropriately to each of the different headers, and all of the stylings have been added to the text. So this is like the second way you can do this. As you can see from here, this is already a lot neater than constantly having to write individually style is equal to whatever it was. And from here on outwards, we're going to be using the use of style tags, and we're going to be using them in a CSS file, but not necessarily in this particular format that I've shown you here. If you watch the second part, I'm going to show you the final way that you can link it together, which is probably going to be the main way that we link our CSS files together. Thank you very much for watching. This is Carl from carlsaptia.com.